Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show. Once again, you already know it is the Tuesday crew. Alongside Matt Hanafin, I'm Chris Begdonis. What's going on, Matt?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I mean, we just had a very exciting, if not predictable, is what one word people may use. About that. The end to March Madness. I have to give the Mountain West and San Diego State all the credit in the world because they did put up a very good fight in that second half, but unfortunately, Dan Hurley and the Yukon, they were just too hot, too good, whatever word you want to use, but they just ran away with it at the end.
I can't remember what UConn shot in the game throughout most of the game that they were completely dominant offensively, but defensively it was a nightmare for San Diego State. Like it was just a nightmare matchup. Like both teams kind of came out guns a-blazing. Like I think both teams made their first combined like 5 shots. San Diego State made their first 3 shots, and it was just like I think they got to like a 10-6 lead, and it's like okay, like we know this isn't going to sustain itself, but at least like San Diego State's able to fashion at least enough offense to possibly keep up with UConn over a 40-minute game,
Right.
at least just based off that initial like 3 to 4 minutes. But then like it flipped like that, and it was kind of around the time when Klingon came in off the bench, and it just like I had a tweet last night where he just looks no shorter than like 9'2". Like just I know the camera angles are a little bit distorted, but he looks so big out there. He made Nathan Mensah look like he was like a 6'2" guard, and Nathan Mensah's 6'10". Like that's just how big he is. And this isn't a player with like his size. I mean, I know they went up against Vlad Golden, they went up against Ryan Kalkbrenner like in their 2 previous games, but when you have Sonogo and Klingon in the paint, disrupting pretty much everything in the lane defensively, especially since San Diego State, they love to run that side-to-side Chicago action and then try to get like Mensa or Lede or like Keyshawn Johnson. Like they want to get them touches in the paint. And those guys are 6'8", 6'7", 6'9". When you're going up against like a Klingon who is 7'2", even though he looks bigger than 7'2", or like an Adama Sanogo who's like a 6'9", but he's a linebacker. It's like it's hard to establish that position, but then once you try to establish that position, trying to shoot over those guys makes it like it's just 1,000 times harder. But then like you have guys like Jordan Hawkins and Tristan Newton and Andre Jackson on the perimeter who kind of cause havoc in that way. And it was like it was like false hope like heading into the game for like
Right.
someone who's rooting for San Diego State, being like maybe they can scratch together enough offense like they have over these last 3, 4, 5 games. Um, but like as soon as they went on like that 11, I think it was like 11-minute, 8-second drought of just not scoring or not recording a field goal, they were down by double digits, and it's just like, all right, this is like UConn's not even playing their cleanest offensive game. It feels like there was multiple, I think, missed layups, especially I think at the buzzer at the end of the first half, and then of course Jordan Hawkins misses that dunk to begin the second half. It was just there was some missed opportunities on UConn's end, but it wasn't enough to like completely swing a game. Like towards the end, we were like San Diego State cut to 5, and we're just like, what? Like, is there a potential comeback ensuing? But then it was like too little, too late. I think Hawkins hit a 3 coming off like a stagger screen. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
But it was like it was almost like a matchup nightmare for San Diego State just because of the kind of the size kind of mismatch that and the physicality that UConn had. I mean, not that like Alabama or Creighton or even Florida Atlantic weren't physical. It was just a different beast when you have multiple guys who can kind of just swing a game just by their presence on the defensive end, kind of like what UConn was able to do throughout. Because I mean, Hurley did a good job staggering minutes with Klingon and Sonogo,
Right.
like he has pretty much all season. Like he's just from what I've seen, I could be way off on this, but it doesn't feel like he plays them both at the same time a lot. And so whenever Sonogo's not on the floor, and San Diego State had a hard enough time trying to establish deep seal position on Sanogo. Oh, guess what? Now you have to shoot over a 7-2 guy. And there was a couple of times, like a couple of fouls, but then it came to foul shots, and San Diego State's had a problem over these last few games. Like they had a big problem against Florida Atlantic making foul shots, and it nearly cost them the game.
Right.
And especially when you're down 7, 8, 9, 10 plus points in a game like this, you're going to have to make every single one of your foul shots. And that unfortunately wasn't the case for San Diego State to kind of stem the tide a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's exactly what we talked about last week, and how the size matchup is just such a huge, a crucial point for this game. And, to your point, that's exactly how it worked out. And credit to Dan Hurley for, like you said, he was on the money with the rotations he put out, and making sure the minutes all lined up correctly. And it just made me think, after the game was over, really, like, kind of the Big East as a whole it's at a very interesting point. Like, obviously UConn is a champion. I kept seeing, like, Jay Wright on the broadcast. Like, he's won some titles with Villanova. They were in the Final Four last year. And now you look at Rick Pitino going to St. John's. It looks like the Big East is in a position to really, be in a pole position in tournaments for years to come. And, obviously we'll see how UConn can reload.
Yeah, because it's like also like Marquette.
Right.
Marquette, like Providence, those are like established, really good programs. Of course, Creighton's another one. Like, these are, I mean, yeah, we can debate all day whether UConn was underseeded as a 4 seed or not, but like there were multiple very good, like, Big East teams this year. That's why they're in the so-called Power 6 is what they call it.
Right.
I'll call it the Power 7, just throw the Mountain West in there, but I'm just kidding. But like, yeah, it's definitely, I'd definitely say it's like not back to where it was, but like it's trending in that direction.
Absolutely.
It felt like when I was a kid, like UConn was always.
Oh yeah.
One
as
of the
soon
best.
as 1999 and onwards, yeah.
Like it growing up, like just kind of like from an outside observer, like it felt like when they had like Kemba and when they had the beat, like all those guys, like it felt like it was really like kind of what you call blue blood, kind of like they're always in contention every year and again. I could be off with that, but I know they took a little bit of a step back, but ever since Hurley arrived, it's kind of gotten back to where it was. And I remember, I think it was like a quote, like either like beginning of the year or like last year. He's like, "We're coming, like this program's coming." And like knowing Dan Hurley, like that's true now, obviously in the end, right? Like he said it best when I think it was in the pregame presser, or it was like the media day presser, like on Sunday or something like that. Right. He's like, "This really isn't that hard. Just I have 3 NBA players, and you just surround them with good players, like good talents." And ended up
he's not wrong, honestly.
Yeah, he's not wrong. But yeah, like Marquette, Creighton, UConn, like Providence. I mean, I know Georgetown was on a little bit of a low with Patrick Ewing, and hopefully they'll kind of turn it around. I think, is it Kim English who's there now, or is he? Or is it
Ed Cooley? I forget. Honestly.
No, yeah. I think it's Cooley. Yeah. But like still, like you're on it with that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I saw like on Instagram after the game they had on their whiteboard even after the game was over and they're celebrating and just said, "We sleep in May," and now I mean they put in the work for March and now they can go and celebrate.
The old John Rothstein quote, but like at the same time, like we have to give credit to UConn. Like this is, if we look back on this 10 years from now, this might be one of the most dominant tournament runs that I've seen at least in my lifetime. Like they've won by 24 points, 15, 23. They won by 13 against Miami. They won by 17 last night in lieu of like a few end of the game free throws, but they still won by 17. They beat Gonzaga by 28.
They were ripping
this
through.
Team was a machine.
Yeah.
And
they were very good teams.
Yeah, like in the tournament, of course, like they weren't able to play the 1 seed because Arkansas knocked them out. I mean, they weren't able to play the 2 seed because Gonzaga, they beat UCLA. But like this this you can only play the teams like it's in the tournament. It's next man up,
Yeah,
or not next
it's
man
out
up,
of
but
your
like
control
next team up. Like
entirely.
if
Yeah.
you win, it's like next team whoever wins that game. Like you play the team on your schedule.
Yeah.
And
You have to have a short memory and you got to be able to look at, or I'm trying to think of like how to describe it, but
yeah, oh yeah, you need a short term memory with this stuff. Like you can't do. I mean, yeah, it's obviously the tournament, so it's like you want to soak everything in, but
right,
you can't let factors like affect you. But
right.
like to have only one game by less than 13 points or less than 15 points, like that's I don't know if I honestly have no idea if we've ever seen that.
I don't. The word I was going to use is unheard of. Like,
Yeah, unprecedented, unheard, like whatever it is. Yeah, like regardless of who they faced, it just feels like one of the most, if not the most dominant tournament run that I can remember in my lifetime.
oh yeah,
Like we could debate all day with like their strength of schedule. Like they faced a 5 seed in the national championship. Who cares? The 5 seed made it to the national championship for a reason. The same with Miami. Like it's the same deal. But like I saw a tweet. I don't know how like true this is, but like I saw a tweet where it was like some guy went back and like tracked all of UConn's like tournament games, and he said they only trailed they only trail in the second half for like a minute, like less than a minute throughout like all of these tournament games. And it's like that's insane. Like I don't know how true that is, so like don't take it too lightly, I guess.
value. Should it be true, remarkable. That is remarkable.
Yeah, like even if it was like 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, like that's insane for an NCAA tournament as a force. Like that's what I mean by like dominant. Like that's
unprecedented. Yeah,
that's like the definition of dominant. But yeah, no, like we have to give all the credit in the world to Dan Hurley, Sanogo, Klingon, Hawkins, Jackson.
I was thinking, of course, it's his son who has the ball in his hands in the final seconds. It had to be.
I also learned last night that I didn't know this before, but like I saw a video. I can't remember who it was from, but like I saw a video. Apparently, Dan Hurley and Bobby Hurley were like coaches. Like they coached together at one point.
Really?
For like a few seasons. I don't know if it was like high school or college or what, but like it was a very funny video of just both of them just screaming on the court because just how hyper energetic both of them are. But like, anyways, there's just a random fact.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just on the whole, I think it was, obviously a lot of the big players, they were knocked out, but on the whole, I think it was one of the best March Madnesses in recent memory. Just so many great storylines, so many underdogs. Obviously, a lot of no bracket really survived, but I don't think that's really the point of March Madness. It's just to see these student athletes come out and really just put their heart and soul out on the court, and that's exactly what happened.
This is what experience and to an extent the transfer portal. This is what happens. For the good, not bad, but like is like the good of the chaos. Like who expected a 5 seed?
The beauty in the chaos, exactly.
Yeah, I know my brackets went to complete hell after day one, but like from an outside perspective, it was. I mean, especially since one of the teams I was rooting for, because they're in the conference that I root for, made it to the national championship. Just outside of that, like it was just so much fun because you don't know what happens. Like again, I think I talked to you about this maybe a few shows ago, but like the biggest takeaway from March that I got, at least from this March, is no one knows anything about anyone.
Standings don't matter once you're playing,
Right?
Standings don't matter.
And that's myself included. Like, I don't know jack crap about any of these teams against like anyone. Like, it's just like anything can happen at any given moment. Did I expect San Diego State to beat Bama? No. Did I expect Fairleigh Dickinson to beat Purdue? No. Did I expect Princeton to beat Arizona? No. Like, I didn't expect any of these things, but that's the beauty of March Madness. That's why they call it March Madness for a reason. It's one game. Anything can happen in one game.
Anything goes, and it's just it's a beautiful thing. And it's sad to say now that it's over, but I just can't wait for next year, even though it's 330, 40 some odd days away. But It's gonna be. It's. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be like. I'm ready for that roller coaster of emotions all over again. Honestly.
Now it's just the madness of the transfer portal. But,
Yes, that is gonna be one heck of a transfer portal this summer and into fall. But again, I think it was just an amazing college basketball season as a whole. From day one onwards, I was just looking forward to seeing who would be the cream of the crop. And obviously UConn wasn't my first guess. I probably had a bunch of other guesses on who would win it all. But again, congratulations to Dan Hurley and to the UConn Huskies, because it was a great victory and a historic run, like we just said. But any closing thoughts you have on this college basketball season, Matt?
Well, it's like UConn at one point was like, again, after they started like 15-0 or 16-0 or whatever, it was like, oh my, like this is like the top the time. That's how they looked. But then Big East play came, and they hit a little bit of a bump. As some teams doing it enters conference play. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're able to overcome adversity. And like Dan Hurley said last night, like, it was like on the court, like he was like, yeah, they wrote us off beginning of the season or like before the season because we weren't like ranked or whatever, and so we had that chip on our shoulder, and then they wrote us off midseason. Just after those struggles, they had a streak where they lost like 5 of 6 or 5 of 7, something like that, or it was either like 4 or 6, whatever it was. They had like a kind of like a lull in the middle of the season, kind of as Big East play started. And then they were finally able to right the ship. I mean, I know they didn't win the Big East tournament, but this was a team that was playing probably their best basketball this season, or not the best basketball this season, but like close to the best basketball this season as the regular season and conference tournament play concluded. And then, of course, this probably was the best basketball that they've played at all this season, just based on what they did in the tournament against the teams that they faced. But yeah, no, credit to them. They got 5. I mean, that's just absurd. 5 national titles, regardless of who you are. Like 5 is 5. It's a lot. So credit to them. Unfortunately, it came at the hands of not my San Diego State, but my Mountain West State.
I know. I mean, my Mac Iona Gales, obviously it didn't. That's a whole other conversation with Pitino. But they didn't represent the MAC the best in the first round, sadly. But it was historic, and like you just said, now our focus shifts to the transfer portal and seeing who goes where, and I think anything can happen now. It's just kind of like the tournament, like you just never know who's gonna be throwing offers out, who's gonna be accepting them. So it's gonna be very interesting to see this off season.
Yeah, what do you want to transition
to next? I think we should definitely hit the MLB now. Opening day is come and gone. We're officially into the MLB regular season, which makes me very happy. And I got to tell you, Matt, the Yankees. I was at the Yankees game on Saturday against San Francisco, and it's the one game they lost. So far, they're 3-1. Of course, the one game I go to is the.
Don't go to a game the rest of the season.
No, yeah. I'm gonna have to seriously contemplate, but thankfully the Yankees got back to their winning ways. They won the opening series against the Giants. They really laid the smackdown on the Phillies yesterday, and it looks like off to a good start in the Bronx.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a weird, not weird Saturday game, but like Clark got roughed up.
I found this on the web for seriously contemplate that, but thankfully the Yankees
got sound on.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah, it's just the ads.
Yeah.
But like Clark got roughed up a little bit on Saturday. That wasn't great. Just second time.
Yeah, he did.
Got him on like a low breaking ball. He kind of hooked it into right field, and then he tried to throw a cutter in on Crawford that didn't cut enough, and Crawford was able to tee it up. But other than that, like this is obviously the smallest sample that we can have. I mean, it's 4 games into the season, but like just based on everything, like the rotation heading into the season, we're kind of like just like there's question marks, obviously, with Johnny Brito, with Clark, how he would do with this first like real opportunity in the rotation as their number 2. But like through 4 starts, I mean, the Yankees, I think they have like a top 5, top 6 ERA. It's sub 2. They've only allowed 1 earned run across 16 innings outside of Clark's 3 1/3, I think it was on Saturday. Like they've had a good turn through the rotation. It helps when you're able to put up 5, 6, 7. I mean, they put up 5 runs on opening day. I think it was, what was it, 6-0 on Sunday, something like that.
Yeah.
And then 8-1 last night. Like they're like these, like sometimes in basketball we have like the common adage of like shooting can be contagious. Well, sometimes in a rotation, pitching can be contagious. Like if you have a good turn through the rotation, that kind of spurs momentum a little bit. And so it's been a good, I guess, 4 games for the Yankees pitching staff as a whole. Everyone's kind of gotten their feet wet. I mean, I know Holmes got roughed up a little bit for you on Saturday, but
Yeah.
Other than that, like Marinaccio's, I mean, he's kind of not like a fireman role, but like he's gotten some extended run. We saw more of Laza last night. I mean, Ian Hamilton came in last night in kind of like a blowout situation, performed well after Brito got set down. Like we've had like the bullpen's been like, I'd say fairly good so far.
Loizaga looked good, and Clay, I mean, other
Right.
than on Saturday, he did look a lot better against the Phillies yesterday.
Right. But like also like I put this in the, how funny is it, like just in hindsight, how Judge just hit the home run, just first at bat of the season, like his first swing against the Giants, the team that he almost signed with.
It just had to happen, I think.
It's one of those things where it's like you look back on it and it's just like no freaking duh that happened. Like no
baseball, yeah,
it's just weird like that. It's just weird like that. Like I think I talked about this with you, how I thought he was probably going to hit a home run just like within the first series. I didn't think it would be his first swing of the season, but regardless, I mean, he hit two over the weekend. Giancarlo hit one of the furthest balls I've ever seen on Sunday. It was just off the bat.
It was a missile.
Yeah, like you cleared the batter's eye, and it was just like what, like 485. It kind of reminds me of that one Judge home run in like I think it was 17, where against the Orioles and he hit one like nearly to the concourse. It was like 495 or something like that. It was just like what? Like how do you do that? How does anyone do that?
I remember seeing after one of the games, or after that game, Volpe said that he's like, I'm shocked they didn't have that at 500 feet, just from like how well it was hit, how far it was hit. But I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know whether to expect that Judge and Stanton would start off hot, but I feel like both of them just kind of have a habit of always starting the season off in good form, and obviously
Stanton especially.
Yeah. And obviously, especially in the case of Stanton, they're kind of rhythm players. I think we've more or less kind of become accustomed to. Obviously, Judge, if 62 home runs a season if that's who Aaron Judge is now, if that's the version that we can expect him to be, then I'm not going to complain as much. But Stanton, obviously, injuries, inconsistency, there's a lot that can be chalked up. But the guy was an all-star last year. He hit 30 homers. Even when missing time. So, fingers crossed that these two guys, obviously Rizzo hit a home run yesterday. If these bats can stay hot, and obviously they are a game behind Tampa for first in the AL East, even, 4 games in, I'm already looking at the standings. But if they can win this series against the Phillies and, keep on keeping on, then I will be very happy at that.
Yeah, like how cool is it? I mean, this is kind of more of like a bigger baseball discussion, but like what do you think of the new rules so far?
I'm honestly a fan so far, and I thought over spring break or spring training that I'd be its biggest opposer. But I mean, the pitch clock, it looks good. Like it's keeping the games moving. I can tell you from my perspective, when I was there on Saturday, it did. I would kind of just be looking away at times, and then it would be the end of the side. Just things would move very quickly, and I think that's honestly a good thing. I still am. The jury's still out for me about the new base sizes, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, a lot of the changes have been anti-pitcher, but and also the shift. Guys, especially the Yankees, have been able to capitalize on that and score a lot of runs as a result, which you'll never hear me complain about. But overall, I'm not as opposed to the rules. I'm not as disgusted by them as I thought I would a couple of weeks ago when we were still in spring training.
Yeah, I'm still myself getting used to the pitch timer. Just from the perspective of like they always show it in like the score bugs, like okay, like 10, 9,
Yes, yeah.
like stuff like that. Like they show it so it's like we know as like the fan, but like I'm still getting used to the fact that like you only have 15 seconds as soon as I think like pitcher catches the ball that they have to release it. And then like we saw there's obviously there's going to be not trial and error, but there's always going to be a few mess ups. Like we saw Devers on opening day get called for a strike 3 in a crucial situation because he wasn't looking directly at the pitcher, but at the same time, like the pitcher really wasn't set on the rubber. And so like that's kind of like an unfair thing. I mean, it's happened multiple times. Like we saw, I think it was in the Mets Marlins where I can't remember who got called for a strike, but someone got called for a strike because the batter or someone who was on base didn't get back in time after like a foul ball or something like that. And so there's just like these little nuances that I'm still getting used to. Like we haven't seen it directly affect, I guess, the Yankees yet, knock on wood, but like having not looking at the pitcher and having like a call like third strike on you or like something that could completely flip an at bat.
Right.
So like there's definitely some nuances that I'm getting used to. I'm on the opposite end of the base stealing thing. I love it. And I went back, let me just read you some of these numbers. I went back and tracked this yesterday. So I kind of went back through the and kind of looked at like throughout baseball, who's stealing how many bases like through like the first 5 days. Not that that's like a complete indicator. I mean, some of these days are a little weird. So I kind of lumped in the games that like, I know 2019, they had a couple games with the Mariners overseas. That was like Ichiro's like last year.
Right.
In 2014, they were also overseas for a little bit, but I kind of lumped that in. So I went back and looked at the first full 5 days of each season throughout the last 14 years. And let me just read you some of these numbers. So in 2020, or I start back in 2009. 2009, their team stole 66 bags throughout like the first 5 days. That jumped to 81, 64, 62, 60, 79. So that's a little bit of an uptick from 2013 to 14. It went from 60 to 79.
Right.
And then it went from 68 to 51 to 71 to 58 to 60. And then as soon as the COVID shortened 2020 season, it dipped. It dipped pretty substantially. It went from 60 to 45.
Wow.
To 46. And then last year it was 40 out of 57 times. This year it's 84.
Holy moly.
84 times someone's stolen. It's 84 out of 100, like 84 out of 100 like stolen base attempts. Wow. That's nearly double than what it was last, or that's more than double than what it was last year. And so it's like we're seeing teams like, I don't know how much you were able to catch of Baltimore and Boston this weekend, but like Baltimore was running wild on Boston. Like it was like they were just like felt like every time Cedric Mullins was on base, he was just stealing a base.
He's just going for it.
Yeah, like it felt like some of these guys like Volpe. Like how awesome is it to have just a guy like Volpe who's just a speed demon on the base pass? And we knew every time he got on base this last weekend that he was stealing a bag, and yet no one could stop him.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where it was like he was just getting phenomenal secondary leads and just stealing bases like it was nothing. And it's like, I mean, I get it. Like when you're facing someone like that, it's kind of like annoying and a pain in the butt. But like just from an objective, like outsider's perspective, like I kind of like it. Like I don't think this pace will completely sustain itself, but I think it'll be like I think we're gonna see like one of the highest base stealer years. I don't know.
I obviously based on this start.
Yeah, like we're gonna see like our highest, I guess, percentage of bases stolen in quite some time. It's like this is an 84% clip that we're at least seeing through these first 5 days, right? And so like, are we going to see it? Like, I know Julian wrote about it a little bit yesterday in his overreactions post, but like, are we going to see a guy like steal 75 plus bags? like there's potential. I don't know
There's
who it is,
certainly
but, like, there's
potential.
certainly the potential. Yeah.
I was thinking myself, we might see a lot of 2020 and 30-30 seasons this year. And
Yeah.
I was like impartial, but on the whole, I definitely don't think it's a bad thing. And
Yeah, like
it kind of empower the runners, empower the hitters, and obviously the big concern about baseball over recent years is that it's too slow, it's too boring, it's too whatever, and everyone's arguing about juicing the balls or whatever over recent years. But I think so far, I think they're off to a good start on these rule changes, and as you alluded to, there's a lot of evidence now that's kind of pointing in the right direction.
yeah, like I mean, I was watching a little bit of Dodgers D-backs on Sunday, and there was one point where I think like Corbin Carroll got like a base hit. Like it was like one of like the first base hits that Syndergaard allowed. It was like in like I don't know, like the fourth, fifth inning, whatever.
Right.
I stepped away for a second. I had to go I went to look at something. I stepped away for a second. Next thing I know, he's on third base. It's just like what? Like he's just stole 2 bags. Like it was like the easiest thing he's ever
done. He just blinked and he's on third.
Yeah, like just stole 2 bags without throws. And of course, Corbin Carroll's like one of the guys that like is one of the fastest players in baseball.
Yeah.
But he's just for a guy to have that kind of power. Like now we're gonna see guys like how much more important do you think it'll be for teams to start having guys like Tommy Edman and John Birdie and Bubba Thompson and Tyler Wade like on their 26 or even 40-man rosters for them to call up in some of these situations? It's like we know we're going to get into like October and it's going to be like down 1 run, bottom of the 8th inning. You have one of the fastest guys in baseball just to completely just screw up pitchers on the base pass. Because it's like you're impacting a game in that kind of sense. You may not be hitting the ball well, or you may not be fielding the ball completely well, but you come in as a pinch runner and just completely wreak havoc. Like I feel like we're going to see more of those guys. Kind of depending on how the rosters like manipulated.
Right.
Like for the Yankees for years, it was Tyler Wade, and that wasn't always the case. Like I'm sure he would be a lot more valuable now as kind of like that defensive base running specialist than he would be, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, David Hamilton, a guy in the Sox farm system, he stole like, I don't know, like 70 or 80 bags or something like that a couple of years ago. Like these guys are going to start. I feel like we're going to see more of these guys being rostered and featured late in these games or in certain situation of these games as the season goes on, just because of like this new rule.
I agree.
And we're also, and like with that, like I was watching a little bit of, it was on one of the Mets Marlins broadcasts, and like it was like someone asked Buck, like this was like before a game, they were just paraphrasing it, but like someone asked Buck, like how are you going to work around kind of like this new pickoff? Like you only get 2 pickoffs. If you throw over the third time, you have to get them, or else it's like a balk. And Buck said like they're going to probably I'm paraphrasing when I say this, but he said something along the lines of like we're still going to use that third pickoff because it's like, what's the trade-off? A guy just automatically stealing the base because he knows that he can, or us trying to get him if he has that like crazy lead or whatever to try to get him at first. Like we're going to be using that third pickoff. And so we might see teams do more of that. We're going to see more of these teams do pitch outs, kind of like that old,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's another ball on the count that you don't necessarily want if you're the pitcher, but you're going to have to get outs somehow. And if you can get outs by nabbing a runner at second base or third base just by like via the pitch outs to where it's like a quicker pop time for these catchers, that could definitely be kind of like a strategy that teams use in these certain situations. So we're going to see more of these kind of like weird instances and weird situations, or like these weird formulas play itself out. But I'm liking this new like base stealing thing, in part because now the Yankees have a guy who could just like
fly over the bases.
Yeah, Volpe just completely screws with pitchers, and it's the funniest thing on the base pass where he's dancing on these secondary leads at second base, first base, or whatever. And it's like that can affect pitchers, especially with this pitch clock. Like that could definitely get their pitchers because it's like you only get 1 step off. If you step off, you can't do it again. And so there might be a time where like we saw Sean Jaley on Sunday kind of like hook a couple of pitches, maybe not because of Volpe and Kleber on the base pass, but it was because like it was a little bit of rattle, little bit, just a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I feel like we're going to see more of that just throughout baseball, but like just having a guy that can just completely get in a pitcher's head on the base pass almost feels a lot more valuable now than it was last year, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. I also saw, just on an unrelated note, I know I'll shut up in a second, but like I saw a ridiculous amount of 2-out bunt attempts like just this weekend throughout baseball. Like I think the Giants had one. I can't remember who exactly it was, but like, why are we bunting with 2 outs more now? It just feels like it. I don't get it. Like I looked at it before yesterday's slate. I don't know if like another was tacked on or whatever, but like there's already been 4 2-out bunt base hits this year, or like 4 2-out bunt singles.
Like safety squeezes?
No, like just base hit. Like their teams are just, I mean, some of them might be squeezes or whatever, but like more teams are just bunting with 2 outs, or just feels like more teams are just bunting with normal. But I feel like I've seen a lot of just 2-out bunt attempts. Some of them have worked, some of them not, but it's just like, just the process of that's just weird. But that's just like a random side tangent that I have.
No, I mean, and I was thinking about it too. Like I remember, I was watching the Yankees yesterday. And they said it. I think it was Michael Kay. Like there's going to be a lot more balks this year. I think that's something I guess umpires have come out and kind of said. And also, I think I was watching. I don't know if it was the same Dodgers Diamondbacks game, but I think it was Will Smith. They said on the broadcast he was having a tough time gunning out guys at second. And it's to your credit. These guys are they're able to really be dancing around the bases, and they're really whether it's on the pitcher side not getting the ball to them quickly enough or whatever the case may be. Like I think it's just a good thing. We need to see some more action. We need to see some more movement that we haven't really been seeing. And obviously, it's great. Like last year, there was a no-hitter in a World Series game. Like it's great to see these pitching performances. But also, like you need to like kind of balance it out. Like like where's the line between entertainment and and it's something that I know Rob Manfred and many others have been trying to figure out. It's a tough nut to crack.
Did you see the quote over the weekend that like, I can't remember, someone said that like more analytics is bad or something like that. And I can't remember the exact quote. I'm paraphrasing when I say that, but like someone like big in baseball said that more like analytics is like bad for the game or something like that. And apparently like Rob Manfred agreed. And it's just like, all right, what are we doing?
I don't know.
Any surprises that you've seen so far throughout like the first 4 or 5 days of the season?
Well, I mean, it probably isn't a surprise, but you kind of alluded to it. Those Baltimore Orioles aren't looking too bad right now. I mean, that Gunnar Henderson or not Adley Rutschman.
Adley, yeah.
But Gunnar
5 for 5.
Yeah, 5 for 5. Everyone had some questions for me on that Vendetta fantasy draft when I picked him up, and obviously I'm not doing that great against Team Herrick right now, but I'm slowly but surely adjusting to the fantasy baseball landscape.
How are you like? So like, are you enjoying it so far? Is it?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's a lot of fun. Obviously, the only issue I'm running into now is like I feel like everyone plays still, like just since we're in the very beginning of the season. So like trying to swap guys out on the bench, and that's my only little minor issue. But other than that, I'm really enjoying it so far.
Fair enough. I don't know if I'm one of the only other guys in the league that's done fantasy baseball before. I'm guessing I'm probably not the only one, but I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. Hopefully you're able to squeak out a win this weekend.
Even though I'm not winning, it's fun. I'm having a good time.
Hey, it's the first game of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Game of the season. There's been times where it's like fantasy basketball, I've lost the first game or whatever, that I've just completely dominated everyone else in the league for the entire rest of the season.
I got my fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one game, but yeah, no. I see where you're at. You're at.
Yeah. I mean, any other baseball related things that you've noticed through opening day, or any upcoming games, matchups that you're looking out for?
I mean, the Twins are 4-0. I don't think I necessarily expected that.
Former Yankee Gio Urshela is really. Oh no, he's on the Angels now.
He's
What
on
am
the
I saying?
Angels, yeah.
That's right.
I'm just glad that baseball's back. I mean, the Phillies. Speaking of the Phillies, they're 0-4. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how saying that out loud. Domingo's on the bump tonight, so that might change.
Let's go.
Domingo on a Tuesday. What else do I have? I mean, it's nice having baseball back. I've watched a lot of baseball this week, probably more than I should.
It's not a bad thing. I for one am thrilled that it's back, and I think it's, I think part of the reason was like obviously these rule changes. I was interested in kind of seeing how they'd manifest into the league, but also just I had the let's see. Trade Albert says the Phillies are trying really hard to hide their World Series hangover, huh? And
I was watching MLB Central this morning, and they were doing a lot of like, are the Astros and Phillies having a World Series hangover? And it's just like, all right, we're
4 games in.
It's not done there yet. It's also nice to see Bruce Bochy back.
Oh yes, very nice to see Bruce Bochy back.
What other like weird things can I mean, the Rays are 4-0. They're the Rays.
Yeah, they just a model of efficiency these days in Major League Baseball.
My Toronto winning the division bet, not working great so far. Not working great so far.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Yankees win. Yeah, I guess that's about it for me in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking now we can jump right into the NBA. Obviously, we're in the final 5 or so games of the regular season for most teams, and you see here is getting here is where it's getting very testy in the Western Conference.
Yeah, like the East is, for the most part, it feels close to being decided. Unfortunately, my Miami Heat will likely be in a play-in game. Yippee skippy. Awesome. Super thrilled about that. But other than that,
I mean, anything's possible. We're in that final stretch where who knows, maybe the Brooklyn Nets just collapse and just fall into the play-in.
Well, the thing Miami doesn't have, Brooklyn has the tiebreaker over Miami right now, and so Miami would have to win like all 4 of their games this week, and Brooklyn would have to go like 1-3 or 0-4, which just doesn't feel likely. I mean, they play Detroit tonight, they play Philly, Washington, and then Orlando, so it's like a winnable 4-game slate.
Totally.
Philly's likely going to be resting guys, or they could be resting guys just because their seed's already determined. I don't know if they'll do that with 3 games left. But right now it looks like Miami they'll have the 7-8. They've done fairly well against Atlanta this year, except on MLK Day. And then, but like Toronto and Chicago, they're combined 1-6 against. They lost all 4 to Chicago, or no, they lost all 3 to Chicago, and then they've gone 1-3 against Toronto. And so that's not great, but yeah, no, it's yippee skippy land for me. I'm just ready for the regular season to be over at this point. Just in basketball in general, but of course, I also want to see the parity in the Western Conference, because who the hell knows what will happen over the next 5 days. The regular season ends Sunday, so a lot could happen. Like it happens literally every day. Like literally every day we wake up and it's something different, with the exception of today because there's no games yesterday. But
yeah, I mean, I think pretty much every day for the past 2-3 weeks, I've turned on my phone. I've looked at where the Knicks at in the standings, where the Lakers at in the standings. Yep. And now I'm starting to look at, we see right here, the Dallas Mavericks aren't doing too great right now. And I read somewhere that they may even shut down Doncic and Kyrie Irving to get a top 10 pick.
It's so hard watching Dallas play defense, dude. It's looking unlikely, but I really need that Lakers Nuggets round one. Hey, listen, I'll talk about it now if that's the case, since the Lakers are now in the play.
I mean,
but like, that would be a very intriguing first round matchup.
Yeah, Garrett would have a lot to say, I'm sure, about that.
Oh, Garrett and Trey would go to war.
They would go to war.
Can someone cook me up some popcorn?
Anyone got a popcorn
on the side?
you're not using?
Huh?
Anyone got a popcorn machine they're not using?
Yeah. But like, dude, it's so hard watching Dallas play defense. It's so hard. Like, as someone who loves defense, it's just like, again, I'll belabor this to you again. They don't have rim protection. It's anything in the short within 15 feet. It feels like teams are converting at a 55, 60, 65% clip. It's just
You can't have that.
like Luka has not been good defensively. Like Kyrie, to his credit, has been all right, but it's not enough because they don't have any other ancillary defenders because they traded away Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber dealt with injuries throughout the season. Like I watched probably half of that Dallas Atlanta game over the weekend, which was drunk, by the way, just a weird ending.
It's a drunk game.
Yeah. But like watching Dallas, like I watched them against Miami, obviously over the weekend. I've watched a little bit of them previously, and it's just like, it's not good, dude. It's not good. Like I feel bad. Like at this point, I feel bad for Mavs fans. Like it's not good. But hey, Kyrie will be a free agent. I don't know if he'll resign there or not. They could get a top 10, top 9 pick in a draft that I think will be pretty deep in that respects. Like it feels like there's going to be like lottery guys who will probably get selected at around 18, 19, 20. But like, yeah, no, Dallas it's not good, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, Matt, I must tell you, if that pick falls anywhere from 11 onwards, it goes to the New York Knicks, which is just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yep.
I gotta
maybe this was the grand plan all along. Maybe it was just like some weird insight. I don't know.
I gotta thank Kristaps Porzingis again for everything he's done for this team. And hey, if we get pick 11, I would be doing cartwheels. And then it's more and more each day. It looks like it's going to be Knicks versus Cavs in the first round, which should be very intriguing. Donovan Mitchell playing at Madison Square Garden, where this offseason Knicks fans were all expecting him to be doing so in a Knicks uniform. But
you only know that's going to come back and bite you, right?
Oh, he's gonna go nuclear on the Knicks. He's going to be the Knicks killer this year, just like Trae Young was not too long ago. But
what do you think about this? Since you have it pulled up, what do you think about this Western Conference play-in race? What do you see?
I mean, I will give a shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was thinking at the start of this year that, it's like, all right, obviously we know Sam Presti's trying to get his treasure chest of draft picks and young talent. That's great. But like, how much longer is it going to be another just tank year? And now obviously they're starting to finally build something. And, Jalen Williams has been playing like the best rookie in the NBA in the second half of the season. And obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think he has a more than good shot at being first team All NBA this season. You look at Josh Giddey; he's emerged as the second option behind Shai that everyone thought that Chet Holmgren would become. But just to think that this team could potentially even has an outside shot of making the 9 seed. I think if you told Thunder fans that at the start of the year, they'd be very happy without Chet. And now, you look at all these picks they have, does one fall into the lottery? Do they luck? I don't know which teams they own picks for this year, but could one pick fall in the lottery? And, everyone was like, Victor on the Thunder. Obviously, it looks like it's going to be more like Victor on the Rockets or Victor on the Pistons, but still, I guess there's a chance because I don't even know whose first round pick the Thunder owns. But other teams, I also want to shout out the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were dealt with a pretty rough hand with Karl Anthony Towns' injury situation. Now he's back, and it's great to see him back on the floor. And I remember talking to you about it on past shows, but I think Mike Conley has really done wonders for that team as a steady hand at point guard. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell, and he's shown this on the Lakers. You got to ride with him on the highs and the lows. He's an inconsistent player, especially shooting the ball on the whole. But I think it's great for the Timberwolves. Obviously, you can hope they're going to hope they can maybe win a playoff series, kind of give Anthony Edwards something to build on. As I can't believe his rookie extension is around the corner. Well, I don't know how much he's going to get, but there's a lot of great teams. Obviously, I'm always going to be kind of a secondhand Lakers fan just because of LeBron and just because of the soap opera that the Lakers always are one way or another. But they could very well slip out of the play-in, and imagine that a Lakers versus Kings 3-6 matchup in the first round of the playoffs. That would be nuclear.
I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, and I've also talked about it a little bit on Twitter. There's going to be no. This is my prediction. There's going to be no first round atmosphere that's going to be as bumping as Golden One Center will be.
Oh, no question.
For games 1, 2, and then if they get to 5 and 7 or whatever. But and especially if it was Lakers, Kings fans do not like the Lakers, as I've talked about with you before. At least it feels like, just from what I know, from the few Kings fans that I know, they do not like the Lakers. It's kind of a one-sided hate because of what we know, what happened in the early 2000s. So that would be a very fun series, just with how electric the Sacramento Kings offense is. The Domas versus Anthony Davis, how would that fare out? De'Aaron being one of the best clutch scorers in the league against that. I mean, obviously the Lakers have more star power, but it would be, I still think, be a very fun series. I mean, the Lakers have been, I think, a top 3 defense since the All-Star break. And that's without LeBron James for a good portion of that. But just in general, that would be a very fun series. It would also be a very fun, if there was some weird machination that the Warriors and Lakers could play each other in the play-in again. Should both teams make it, that would be fun.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, no, at this point, it's the Lakers control their own destiny. I mean, they play the Jazz twice this week. They have, they play, who else they played? They also play the Clippers.
And the Suns.
And the Suns. And so it's they kind of control their own destiny. If they go 3-1 or 4-0, and if the Warriors or Clippers slip up, the Lakers will likely play themselves out of the play-in that case. I'd still have to go back and look at the tiebreakers. It's the Warriors, Lakers, and Pelicans tiebreak again, or the Clippers, Lakers, and Pelicans tiebreak. It's I know the Clippers would own the tiebreaker over the Lakers, but the Lakers own the tiebreaker over the Pelicans, as we see right here.
Right.
And so it's Minnesota losing to Portland over the weekend didn't necessarily help their case. It would have been more fun to see them all 5 teams being within a game of each other or something like that. But I'm really interested to see how this plays out, because it's the Warriors again haven't been good on the road at all this season. They're 9-30. They lost again against Denver over the weekend without Jokic. I believe it was without Jokic.
I believe, yeah.
How are they going to avoid the play-in? Are the Clippers, who have dealt with load management fever with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George this season, and Paul George will be out for at least the next couple of weeks because of that knee injury that he had. How is that going to play itself out? Because I know the Clippers do have a back-to-back. I don't know if it's the Saturday-Sunday game or what game it is this week, but they do have a back-to-back. And so it's I wonder how they navigate that, because there was I can't remember what game. It was last week, I believe. And they were in a situation where they were on a back-to-back, but they played Kawhi both days on the back-to-back. But it was weird because I think it was against Memphis. They only played him in the first half. And they're since we're going to play you on the second game of this back-to-back, we're going to sit you at halftime. And then the Clippers lost. And it was just that's got to be so infuriating as a Clippers fan. Yeah, you know that the load management will come into play with Kawhi Leonard. That's how it's been since San Antonio.
Right.
But the fact that you're in a close game, you need to win this game not need to win this game, but you would really like to win this game to stay out of the potential play-in game. And you're in a situation where it's I can't remember if they were up 4 or down 4 or whatever, but it was a close game against Memphis at half. And they're nope, we're going to sit you. It's just wait. Okay, this is weird. And then, of course, the Clippers get blasted. And it's just that's got to be so infuriating as a Clippers fan, just having to go through those highs and lows. Not highs and lows, but just kind of through that load management.
Yeah, that whole
Kawhi Leonard, but
the
like
whole experience.
yeah, and it's just like load management, like is a
The
problem.
Kawhi Leonard experience.
Yeah, it is a problem. There are certain guys who, like Kawhi Leonard, will do it, but like I feel like there's also other times where it's like a guy has like a nick and a bruise, and oh, I'm load management playing out for this game. Yeah. But that was kind of not changed, but like I don't know how much you want to talk about the new CBA. I have a bunch of thoughts on it, but
I mean, I'll defer to you. I was thinking about like the whole load management thing, but now I guess we'll see if it really pays off as the play-in and playoff is around the corner. But go, what are your thoughts on the CBA?
It's weird, like a part of me, because they have one of the new things that they're having in the new CBA. I'll cut this short because I know you have to go early, but like one of the new things with the CBA is like they're incentivizing guys to play 65 games in order to win these awards.
Oh yeah, that's a
whole like the MVP or an All NBA,
or millions of dollars.
Yeah, and so it's like it's weird that they're kind of taking, in a way, they're taking the vote out of the voters' hands, which for better or worse. Like there hasn't been, like at least for the MVP, there hasn't been many MVP winners that have played below like 70 games or something like that. It's like in that respect, it's not that big of like a deal. But like, for example, there are 4 guys, like I think it's like Steph, LeBron, Durant, and someone else, like
right
under these new parameters, they wouldn't make the All NBA because like even if they play their max game limit, it wouldn't be 65 games. And like that was the same thing like last year, for example. I think that I looked it up. There was either 3 or 4 guys that under those same parameters. In the COVID shortened 2021 season, 2020, 2021, when if you were to prorate that for a 72 game season, it would be around, I think, 57 games if you want to go 65 over 82. And 6 guys would not be eligible for this new, like for this all, like I just looked at All NBA, and then of course I think there was 3 in 2019, 3 in 2018. Like it's substantially grown, and so they're incentivizing that now, and so maybe not as many guys will load manage now as there was like in the future. But like we're gonna see guys like there are players who have to do it for like injuries. Like I'll use Jimmy Butler as an example. His knee is effed up to the point where he's bookended to miss 15, 20 games in the season. That's just how his knee is. Yeah, it's just how his knees operated over the last several years. And so now he's going to be one of those guys who might not make an All NBA team because of that. Or like, I think Bam would be eligible, but like there might be a situation or two where Bam or someone like of his caliber won't be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Or like, I wonder how do you know if these new rules are going to be implemented for like 6 Man of the Year? Because it's like,
it's a good question. I forget if it's a more of a holistic thing where it's kind of every single,
yeah, I think it is.
If I had to guess, I would probably say yes, but it just makes me think like it's interesting. Like when you say all that, like I feel like there's a spectrum in the NBA of players. Like you have guys like younger guys like De'Aaron Fox, like whoever, like guys who have been made an All NBA team yet, guys obviously who are on a rookie deal looking to, obviously there's financial incentives behind it, when you get a rookie extension, but then you have guys like Jimmy Butler on that opposite end who really, I'm sure he could care less about being in the All-Star game. Obviously it'd be nice, like all defensive, all like teams like that. I think he's, you just got guys like him who just want to win a championship.
Jimmy Butler is
very interesting spectrum.
Jimmy could not care less about the All-Star game. Like I remember someone asked him a question like before the All-Star break about not making the All-Star team, and he's just like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm not making the All-Star game, man. I want to go on vacation. Like he's so, and that's just Jimmy Butler. Like that's not him being fake or anything. Yeah. Like he hates, I don't want to say hates, but he's not like a guy who just
apathetic to the
stuff all that much. Like, he wants to win, but like, yeah, there are guys with incentives, and now we're gonna see like more of like you remember like I think it was either last year, a couple years ago, like Draymond Green like left the game after fouling someone like 5 seconds in, and then it's like that counts as a game played. And so we're going to be seeing more of that. We're going to be seeing more of these kind of like shenanigans now, where there's going to be like, oh, guys got 64 games played, not the healthiest player in the world right now because he's dealing with some sort of injury or whatever. Oh, and then you get that $500K or that $1 million like incentive because you played that 65 game minimum. Like, I wonder how if the league is going to like work around that, because more guys are going to be doing it, because not everyone like there's some guys who like would deal with like legitimate injuries and be with at 63, 64 games. Not everyone, but there will be circumstances where that does happen. And so I wonder how guys are going to like navigate that, because again, they're probably going to do like, or they're either going to play for like a couple minutes or whatever, just so the league doesn't like completely strip that game away, if they can have the authority to do that. I don't know if they can, but we're going to be seeing more of these kind of weird like end of season shenanigans, I believe, just with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, like, yeah, you're completely on it. Like, this is like money, like for like the MVP. Like, how would you feel if you were a player who played 64 games, you aren't eligible for the MVP, and that takes away from you being eligible for the Supermax?
Yeah,
on the All NBA team, and you're eligible. I can make 5 over 180, but I can't make 5 over 290 or something like that.
Yeah, something like, ridiculous.
Like, one of the names that was floated over the weekend was Jaylen Brown. Like, not saying Jaylen Brown wouldn't be eligible, but like, how would you feel if you were like in his circumstance, or if he had a circumstance where he wants a substantial payday and he's eligible? I don't know the exact number is, just for like a normal, like, but he's like 4 for 180 or something like that.
Right.
Oh, but now you're eligible for 5 for 290. That's hundreds of millions of dollars that players could get completely screwed out of if just under these new parameters. And incentivizes guys to play more. But like, what if a guy's dealing with like a substantial injury?
Yeah.
And it's it like, makes me, or not substantial injury, like an injury that would hold him out for a few weeks or whatever, and it comes back to bite him or something like that. Like, that would suck. And I'm sure there will be a circumstance where that comes into play over these next 2, 3, 4 years. When, I mean, the CBA is supposed to be implemented next year, but like
next year,
there's going to be guys that have those situations happen to them. For these I wonder if they're going to amend the Supermax or max contract parameters. I don't know if they are, because I think that would have to happen under this new CBA. But like, guys who could be potentially eligible for a Supermax extension or a healthy max extension, and they can't add an All NBA or an MVP to their resume if they're kind of in that case. I don't know. I'm just fascinated by it.
I mean, one of the first names that I thought about in this conversation is John Wall. He took the Supermax with the Wizards. You know, I think I remember one of the first things he said after signing it was that, you know, I know my children's children will be able to live a good life after, you know, this kind of money I'm going to be making. And obviously, you know, John Wall's had a lot of injury scares, injuries in general, just, you know, that's seen him kind of fall out of the league, unfortunately. But I thought in the case of Jaylen Brown, I think, you know, based on the comments he's been making about, you know, the Celtics, whatever, he seems like someone who wants to make that money, but I don't think he'll mind if it's in Boston or anywhere else. Because, you know, but also, you know, to your point about, you know, how these rules are going to take place in the minimum, you know, 65 games, it's tough, because there's a lot of great players that, you know, obviously we've become more and more accustomed to guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, etc. Like, guys who we all in our minds kind of conceptualize as all NBA caliber players, but they just are not making teams as of late, just because they're not in the game, they're not playing really. But it's a complex discussion, because one of the big things I thought about, even though he did play 65 games, I remember, was when James Harden won an MVP in 2018. He played 72 games. Obviously, the Rockets were a 65-win team, a very fun, you know, Mike D'Antoni ball at its finest. But, you know, 2018 was the first season that LeBron James played all 82 games in, and that was like year 15 he was in the league. And, he just carried that Cavs roster to the 4th seed in the East. And I was thinking to myself, like, this, obviously that postseason run, whatever. But, it's like, how much do you value durability in today's NBA? Because I think we've seen so much of an emphasis put on, jump shooting, what you can do with the ball in your hands, like stuff like this. But, you can hate on Russell Westbrook all you want, but the guy's there. He's going to be playing the games, Meanwhile, a guy like Anthony Davis, who's supremely talented, and before the All-Star game, he was looking like arguably the best big man in the NBA. And then you always have to chalk up at least 2 months of the season where he's just not going to be there, and it's tough because I can't remember the last time AD's made an All-NBA team.
I mean, I'm guessing it was probably 2020.
Maybe the COVID year, and he was there for his first year in LA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you said, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of different sides a lot of different perspectives you can see on it.
Yeah, and like just before we close, like going back to Jalen a little bit, like he can only get the Supermax if he's.
That's true. If he re-signed with Boston.
Yeah, if he re-signs with Boston, it's like we've seen guys like get the Supermax, and then after a year or after however long, like they move around. They kind of get their money, and then it's like, okay, I'll be able to leave after a year or something, or I'll want out.
Look, Trey, all I'm gonna say is, like, Westbrook is consistent, but he's just consistently not good. He has. That's what I'll say.
He's been fine with the Clippers. He's been fine with the Clippers. Come at me if you want.
I think. We'll wait until the playoffs. I think Trey will show his receipts to the world after the playoffs, because I don't know how he's going to mesh with the Clippers.
Listen, man, he's shown all of them already. I don't think he has to show them again.
Yeah.
And plus, everyone doesn't like Westbrook now, at least nowadays.
But. Yeah, all Lakers fans, probably many Clippers fans.
The Lakers fans, at least on my Twitter timeline, do not like him.
They also do not like Malik Beasley.
That's just how it is with fandom, and like if a player plays bad on your team, then that's just
it's just the way the cookie crumbles, I feel like.
But Jalen, he would have to re-sign the Supermax if he was with Boston. It's like, well, would he sign the max? Would he sign the normal max? Again, he'd be eligible for the Supermax after this offseason if he made an All-NBA team this season, and so it's not like something that's gonna be the topic of conversation a year from now, because it's not implemented like right now. It'd be implemented next season, but like there will be a situation where that happens to someone. Is guess what I'm trying to say. I just used him as an example because I know he probably will be eligible. Well, probably, I don't know. I'm guessing he will be eligible for that Supermax if he makes that All-NBA team.
Right.
Doesn't matter which team. Just got to make an All-NBA team.
He could be traded this offseason. I guess I need to see that if he gets traded to somewhere new this offseason. Could he sign the Supermax with that team next? I remember like Anthony Davis, that whole thing with his extension with the Lakers, like when they first got him.
I think he would be able to, like if it was like before, because he's not a free agent. He's still under contract.
Right.
He'd be under contract for one more season. And so like if you trade him to Team X and Team X is like, oh, like let's sign you to a Supermax extension or whatever, then I think that would be the case.
Right.
But it wouldn't be a situation where like he could like as a free agent sign a Supermax with someone else. I don't believe. I'd have to double check on that.
Yeah.
There's more CBA stuff that we could probably get to next week or whatever.
Oh yeah, I'm going to try reading through it a little more and be a little more on top of it. But anything else you want to cover real quick, Mac, before we?
No, man. No, I'm good.
All right. Well, Trey and everyone else who's watching, thank you for tuning in today. We'll have it up in written form with the timestamps. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next Tuesday. And everyone, thank you again. Have a great Tuesday.